Welcome on into the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. It's Mitch Pinnell and Mitchell Bally here to give you the latest on what's going on in the world of sports. Mitch, I'm on the road again, coming to you hundreds of miles away. This is just what we're doing right now.
Yeah, you forgot to leave out the part that you're in a much better weather than I am right now, as you're in Florida, where it's nice and sunny and warm. And I'm currently in Ohio, where I walked out of work today and it was snowing, and it is, let me check, 34 degrees.
Yeah, you sent
I
me
believe the high tomorrow, I believe, is 20. So great weather we're having here in Ohio.
You sent me the video of you driving through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. I wanted to send a video today of me relaxing poolside while eating chicken tenders and playing on my computer, but it wasn't going to do that to you. There is, however, a big TV playing ESPN on the poolside, so that was a fun little experience. But enough about my good times. Let's get into the good times in sports. Some of the bad times in sports we've been having here on BigTimeSportsOhio.com and everywhere else you want to find us. First off of all, Mitch, let's talk about what's going on in the high school world here in Stark and Tuscarawas counties, because I've been going through a lot of this stuff right now. And of course, the basketball season is very much underway on both boys and girls side. And a lot of teams kind of coming out to very surprising starts this year. One particular team on the girls side, one particular team on the boys side. Let's start off on the girls side, because that might partake more to you.
Yeah, listen, this past weekend, obviously, we are in the full swing of high school basketball. I was fortunate enough to get excited. I always get excited for broadcasts, but this past Saturday, having an undefeated Lake girls basketball team come to Jackson. Jackson having one loss in the year, it was their season opener, a 1-point loss, but Jackson undefeated in the Federal League. So immediately it was a very big Federal League showdown early in the season. This Lake team, Mitch, for the past few years, not really last year, but prior to that, they struggled. And you're starting to see why, because they played a lot of players that were young. And last year they made a bit of a statement. And now this year they have come into the high school basketball season as a team to beat. And immediately the 6-0 Lake Blue Streaks coming in, 2-0 in Federal League play, going up against 4-1 Jackson, who was 3-0 in Federal League play. You knew it was going to be good. This Lake team beat Jackson twice last year. But this Jackson team, which there wasn't a whole lot to know about them coming into this year, they returned Megan Campbell, a senior who was part of that Final Four run just 2 seasons ago as a sophomore. They returned Madison Lepley. She was a freshman last year, and then Ashley Lammers, who was a junior last year. You had to start to wonder, okay, where are these other pieces going to come from? And for Jackson, they've turned to a few freshmen. They have Ashley Helly and Lexi Pizer, who are freshmen. One starts, one comes off the bench, the first usually off the bench. And Jackson handed Lake their first loss of the season, 47-40. It was pretty much all polar bears after the first quarter. But that fourth quarter came, and Lake was not going to go quietly. It was a 16-point lead through 3 quarters for Jackson. Lake then rallying to make a ferocious comeback, the final 47-40. The one thing, though, is Serenity Johnson picked up 4 fouls early in that game. She had 2 fouls in the first. She picked up her third in, I believe, the end of the first quarter. And so you just knew right away, okay, you're probably not going to see her again in the first half. Third quarter comes around, not even a minute. I believe it's 58 seconds into the third quarter. She picked up her 4th foul, an offensive foul. Immediately, that's one of Lake's top returning players along with Emma Anderson. So you take one of the best players from Lake, probably Mitch, the most athletic player for Lake, out of the game. Jackson really started to build a lead. And then head coach Ashley Como faced no choice, with Jackson having that 16-point advantage after 3, to put her back in. She did her thing. She got scoring, obviously did not lead the team in scoring. That was done by Emma Anderson, who had 17, then Paige Marshall, who had 9. But Serenity really made her presence felt. Now, the downside, fast breaks Jackson had in the fourth, she had to just stand there because she couldn't risk to pick up that 5th foul. Jackson, though, survives that run. Megan Campbell, 20 points, coming off her career high of 21 on that win over Hoover last week. So she picks up where she left off. Ashley Lammers had 8. Madison Lepley was 7. Really, Mitch, those are probably the 3 names you're going to hear the most for Jackson this year, assuming they all stay healthy, in terms of scoring for the Polar Bears. But Jackson with a major Federal League win. And this is a team that you lose 2 Division I recruits in Lauren Pilata, Lena Patabana last year. You weren't sure what they would look like this year. This is a young team. like I mentioned, they only have a few seniors, and head coach Anthony Butch is leaning on the freshmen and these other underclassmen, and some juniors didn't get much playing time last year. And so far, it has Jackson at 5-1 overall and 4-0 in the Fed, sitting atop the Federal League undefeated. You look at the rest of the Federal League in girls basketball, Hoover lost 58-42. They fall to 0-5, 0-4. That's just such a tough spot to be in for Hoover because this is their fourth coach in 4 years. A number of seniors decided not to come out. That is so hard to get seniors to buy into their fourth coach in 4 straight years that I'm sure all have different philosophies offensively, defensively. However, there's still talent in that Vikings team. So it's not a team I want to sleep on. Green, though, picks up a win. They get a very big win. And so now this Federal League is kind of just, you're waiting to see who's going to blink first. Because right now, Jackson has the bullseye on their back 4-0 in Federal League. But Jackson has played McKinley, they've played Green, they've played Hoover, and they've played Lake. Now, they are off till Friday. The girls play Friday night at 5:30, followed by the boys at 7. It is something the Federal League's doing this year. Every Federal League team gets a home game where the girls will play before the boys. And then obviously every team in the Fed will play away. So this is Jackson's doubleheader this year, where the girls will play at home against Glen Oak at 5:30, then the boys at home against Glen Oak at 7. Now we'll get to the boys here in a second, but it doesn't matter what the record is for the Glen Oak girls Golden Eagles basketball team because they have one of the best coaches in all of Stark County, one of the most respected coaches in all of Ohio, and Paul Wackerly. This is a team that's probably going to throw something at Jackson they haven't seen yet. So I'm intrigued to see how Jackson responds having 6 full days off. They get to rest up. I have to imagine they're probably going to go watch Glen Oak play on Tuesday, or Wednesday, the girls, if they're in action. I'm assuming Jackson boys will go do the same because Glen Oak is in action on Tuesday. I'm very intrigued to see how this happens because when Wackerly took over the job at Glen Oak, this was a team that nobody wanted a piece of. They had some of the best talent in the Federal League, some of the best playmakers, and some would argue the best coach. And it all changed back in the playoffs a few years ago when Jackson upset them in the playoffs. They've done it now a few times, but I'm excited because right now this girls basketball in the Federal League is just so open. Jackson right now sits atop, but it's the Federal League. Anybody can beat anybody on any given night. There is no slouch. I mentioned Hoover's record, but that's not a team you can take lightly because there is talent there. There's young players trying to prove themselves. So this is, we're not even to Christmas yet. It'll be the last game for all the Federal League teams this upcoming week on Friday, Saturday, before you go into the holiday break. I'm very intrigued to see what transpires over the next week, because this could get really, really interesting and clustered before you hit the holiday break.
Well, you talk about some of those games that we're having up on Big Time Sports, some of them including on Tuesday's doubleheader of Dover and at New Philadelphia and Lake taking on those Green Bulldog boys team. Then we also have the girls Garaway versus Strasburg matchup, which I'll be on call for on Wednesday, followed by on Friday, Highland at Tusky Valley and St. V's at McKinley. We also have a Saturday matchup, Garaway at Highland Girls, while we have a wrestling match on Wednesday, I believe, Claymont at Indian Valley. Excuse me, that would be Thursday. So we have that. You mentioned those games in there. Very interesting matchups as well. You also saw the Hall of Fame City Hardwood Classic this past week, where Stark County teams went 5-1. Central Catholic beat Mogador, Canton South beat Dalton, Lake lost to Ashland, excuse me. Hoover beat Hoban, Glen Oak beat Mentor in a high-scoring matchup, and Massillon beat Walsh Jesuit. Mitch, these Massillon Tigers are unbeaten so far this year.
Mitch, call me crazy. Winning's contagious. I've mentioned it before. You saw it in 2010. I got to witness it firsthand when Jackson won their first ever state championship in any event with the basketball team. Then you look at 14, baseball wins. Then in 17, you had basketball winning a state championship. You had baseball winning a state championship. Mitch, I don't know if you know this, but the Massillon football team recently won a football state championship, the first in the playoff era. And there's a number of players on that basketball team that were on that state championship football team. Now, I'm not going to go as far to say Massillon basketball can win states this year, although anybody can. It's up for the taking, obviously. We're early in the season. But winning's contagious. And having those guys with that championship pedigree coming to the basketball floor now, knowing how hard you have to work to get there, being able to bring all the rough parts they went through, pretty much the state championship game of that phenomenal defensive battle, I think it means something. And I think the Massillon Tigers basketball team is actually a really good basketball team. And they are going to be a team that nobody's going to want to face. And them being undefeated does not shock me so far. Now, obviously, they're not in the league. We'll have to see what the rest of their season schedule looks like and what transpires. But you mentioned these other teams. I mean, they're not playing no names. They're not beating slouch opponents. They're beating good high school basketball teams and programs. And I think that speaks a lot to the success other sports are having there. And it's just you mentioned the Hall of Fame City Hardwood Classic, and really Stark County putting on a show. How about Glen Oak beating Menor? And that's without Bryce Broom. Bryce Broom started that game, but ended up suffering an injury on an undercut underneath the basket. He has to leave the facility to get tended to. And Glen Oak comes, they don't miss a beat. They really don't. And they defeat Menor 82-73. Menor is such a tough team, such a well-coached team, too. And the reason I'm talking about Glen Oak now is because this is a team that suffered their first loss last week on Big Time Sports against McKinley at home. There's something about this Golden Eagles basketball team, though, away from their high school. This is a team last year that took everybody by storm. They started off hot. I believe they were 11-0, and then Jackson, in the new year, first game after the calendar turn, went over there and they throttled them. Jackson throttled Glen Oak. This team, I may be off by a few games here, but I do believe, dating back to last year, Mitch, is 11-0 when they play road league games. Now, obviously, they picked up another win this past weekend over Menor that was not at their home floor, but then you have to count the loss they had in the playoffs last year. But this is a team that came to Jackson last year and routed Jackson then. This is a team that is very talented, led by Ja'Cory Lipkins. He had 24 in that win. Bryce Broom only had 6, but he is a dangerous shooter if he's able to play and clears, gets cleared to play. What also is extremely exciting, Mitch, is Broom shoots the ball so well from behind the arc, and so does Mitch Finnefrock from Jackson. Jackson beat Lake this past weekend in Federal League play. Finnefrock had 4 3-pointers in the first half, including an and one that he converted. He was the high scorer in the game with 20. Kyle Monterubio had 18. Cam Weekly had 17. Those are all juniors for Jackson. Jackson has one senior on the roster, Anthony Fuline, starting point guard. When Jackson's guards can play like that, Mitch, it's going to be hard to beat Jackson. The issue is going to be when they run into a team with size. They have one player over 6'3". That's Landon Thiel, the sophomore. He's a 6'7" center off the bench, most notably known for his amazing performances on the mound this past spring for baseball. But if Jackson can play the style they want to play, they're going to be tough to beat. But guess what? When Hoover boys basketball gets you to play the style they want to play, they sucker you into a trap and you can't get out of it. And Hoban learned the hard way in that Hardwood Classic. Hoover with a win over Hoban, 48-39. This is a team coming off a state championship in basketball. Hoover beat Jackson last week. They are 3-2. They are a team that plays a completely different style of basketball versus everybody else in the Federal League. They like to slow it down, grind it out, make every pass they can to find an open shot. And for some people, Mitch, guess what? Oh, it's so boring to watch. It's not fun to watch. You know who doesn't care? Head coach Mike Bluey and his staff and his basketball team. Because if they're winning, they're doing their job. And it falls on the other teams to get Hoover out of the style they want to play. And Hoover already shown you at 3-2, this is a team that did not perform well last year, that they are going to stay disciplined. You're going to play the style in which they want to play. And if you fall in that trap, they can beat you. And Hoover right now is that team that I think you looked in the crystal ball, you said, wow, Green returns 4 starters and their first guy off the bench who's now a starter this year. Glen Oak returns 2 of the top players. Jackson returns 3 starters and their first guy off the bench from last year. Lake returns possibly the best overall player in the Federal League who we haven't seen yet due to injury, in Chance Kassenheiser. You know, those teams are going to be tough to beat. Here's Hoover at 3-2, already beating Jackson in Federal League play. This league is going to be fun. And Lake, although they fell to Jackson, it was 32-29.5. It was a close game before Jackson got going. Lake and Josh Cofield, their center, I believe had 10, and I want to say 8 rebounds in the first half. And Jackson figured something out at halftime, took him out of it. But this Lake team, if they tread water, Mitch, if they somehow tread water here and learn how to pick up some wins, not in the Federal League or in the Federal League, it seems like Kassenheiser could be back come January. This is a team that's either going to be right back in the thick of things, or this is a team that's going to play spoiler. And not only are they going to play spoiler, this is a team that's probably going to be underseeded come playoff time that you're not going to want to face because they're well coached. They have a lot of great surrounding players. They're just missing their best player. And I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. But with him out, other kids get to grow out faster, get to, score a little bit more to where Kassenheiser can come back and say, all right, I can trust this guy, I can trust this guy, and this guy, we can do this. It's going to get very interesting now in the Federal League. And just what an overall job by Stark County this past weekend in basketball. I mean, you mentioned some of these teams that picked up wins. We mentioned Glen Oak, we mentioned Hoover. Massillon gets a win. It was a very strong showing. And I think that when it comes playoff time, which is going to look completely different this year, these are a lot of teams that you could possibly see not only advancing into the districts, but winning districts and advancing to the regionals, which I'm extremely excited about.
No doubt. Now we go over to Tuscarawas County side, where a number of teams are performing well to start the season. One of them being the Dover Boys, who beat Zanesville this past Saturday for their 5th straight victory to start off the season. That was a 48-36 final in which the Crimson Tornado, or the girls team rather, excuse me, the boys team has so far beat the girls team 48. Boys team won 48-36 over Zanesville. They've now won 7 straight games over the Blue Devils dating back to 2017-2018 season. I mean, they've been doing very well so far this year. As you mentioned, some of the other matchups in this area so far in Tuscarawas County, there was a girls game, I believe, on Saturday that featured 2 of the top teams in the IVC South in Highland and Tusky Valley. And the Hawks ended up winning that game. They are at 6-0 now on the overall season, 4-0 in IVC play. And it's a pretty competitive list so far in the South, with Ridgewood right behind him at 5-1, 3-1. Indian Valley, same record, but 2-1 in conference play. Tusky Valley with only 1 loss so far. And then you go over to the North, where Strasburg, after their first loss to West Muskingum on the season, they've ripped 5 in a row. They've been dominating in each of their matchups against schools that have been struggling early on in the year. If we're going to be honest, Malvern's been kind of struggling. Tuscarawas Central Catholic has been struggling right now. Strasburg, the only team other than Buckeye Trail with a winning record overall play, as the Tigers are 5-1. The Warriors are 3-2. Everyone is at 2-4 or 3-4 and worse. Now, I'm going to be interested in seeing some of the matchups later on this week. As we mentioned, Strasburg will take on Garaway in a girls matchup. Garaway is 4-4 right now, but they are 0-4 in conference play. But when you go over to the North, things can get interesting, especially if you're a team from the South going over to one of the smaller schools. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one. I hope you guys listen to the Wednesday night broadcast.
Hey, Stark County, it's your friends from the local Board of Mental Health and Addiction Recovery, and we have a challenge for you. We're asking you to create a new habit and check in on someone every day. Nothing fancy, just a simple text, phone call, or note on social media to ask someone how they're doing. You don't have to be a professional. You just have to ask and then listen. Are you someone who could use a check-in? Text 4HOPE to 741-741 anytime, day or night, or dial 988. Brought to you by Stark County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery.
Wendy's without the Wendy's app is like Nugs without the sauce. Or a Frosty without the fries. Or a hamburger without the fresh beef. No! Level up. Get the app to order ahead, order delivery, earn free food, and get app-exclusive offers. One app, all the Wendy's.
Offer for a limited time at participating Wendy's. Terms apply. App registration required. Fresh beef available in contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
Think Ferris. Where you matter.
You matter. Everyone plays a part. We all have a role. Each of us can make a difference. You do matter, and the best way to have a positive impact is to pay it forward. With each of us helping one another to cope, feel better, and know that we belong. Pass on the positivity today. Tell someone else they matter too. Alt Care.
Alt Care, Alt Care, where you matter.
You invest a lot in your home and vehicle purchases. Van Nostrand Young and Associates want you to feel secure should anything happen to those investments. We partner with providers like Grange Insurance and other industry leaders to be sure you're presented with the most complete coverage to fit your needs. Because we're not only here to protect the items you invest in, we're here to protect your future as well.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
Ride into the future to win great prizes. Can you see into the SARTA crystal ball? Guess how we'll be innovating and adding new services to make your SARTA experience better than ever. Try your luck with the What's Next at SARTA contest at sartanext.com. One grand prize winner will win free bus rides for 6 months. Runners-up will win great SARTA merchandise like a Bluetooth speaker water bottle, backpack, and tumbler. And don't worry, they're all multiple choice questions. All part of SARTA 2.5. Happy SARTAversary.
Speaking of being angry, Mitch, can you imagine being a Chicago Bears fan right now? Because I can't relate. Pour one out for Victory Monday. It's a sober Victory Monday.
Victory
But a
Monday.
Monday, nonetheless. Oh my God, what an ending, dude. That's what happened to the Browns from 1999 to 2022. That's what happened. But this is a new look Browns team. This Browns team is 9-5. We're essentially one game win away from a playoff berth. We are on a streak, Mitch, and it is a special, special time. A game in which you wouldn't think they'd have won because it looked like they were just giving the game away for 3.5 quarters. And then the legend of Joe Flacco, the old man in the football, just keeps growing and growing. A man we never thought would even don a Cleveland Browns uniform, let alone play productively in it. And here he has his team on the cusp of another playoff berth. And who knows what's going to happen after that? With a quarter of the roster in terms of salary, the salary listing on the IR. It's crazy.
Yeah. First off, what I want to address is all the haters that say the Browns are so lucky. We are not lucky. Okay. At this point in the season, with how the Browns are winning, this is not luck because we don't have our full roster. You just mentioned a fourth of our roster, starting roster on IR. Mitch, we were down to 3 players from the opening day roster, I believe. I guess it's more. 2 players in the offensive line from the opening day roster left. Okay. The backup that came in game 1 in DeWad Jones is done. We are down to 1 starting offensive lineman from the first game of the year, and that is now Wyatt Teller. We are down to our 4th quarterback, who, may I mention, we have won a game with all 4 starting quarterbacks. It is mind-boggling, and I will give credit where credit's due. What Kevin Stefanski has done as head coach, what this staff has done with this roster, backs up against the wall. If this team wasn't 8-5 going into that game yesterday, you would have thought we were a 500 team at best. The way people act, the way people are worried. But this team wins. This is a team that is so different than these other teams that we've had since 1999. Maybe 2020 you could say somewhat similar, but that team wasn't without one of the top 2 running backs in the NFL, wasn't without basically their entire starting offensive line, wasn't on their 4th quarterback, wasn't going through personnel changes defensively. It was that game yesterday, the Browns had no business winning. And typically in years past with the Cleveland Browns, they would not have had that fight. They would have not have come back. And I would have to venture that game probably, Mitch, ends up more like a 24 or 27-10 win for the Chicago Bears. But Joe Flacco, all the dude does is win in Cleveland Browns Stadium. We saw it. I mean, my gosh, dude, how many times did he hurt us in Cleveland as the Baltimore Ravens starting quarterback. I don't want to mention the team he played for last year that got that win second week of the season because it still hurts me a little bit. One more win should do it for the Browns to get in. I'm not worried about one more win. I'm not. I'm worried about, can this team run the table and can they get some help? Because I don't know what it is. Actually, I do know what it is. We have a true home field advantage. What I would do for this team to somehow, it will take luck, obviously, much like I've referenced in every single sport. Yes, to win it, you have to be a very good team, but you have to have something break your way in terms of luck. What I would do for this team to be the number one seed in the AFC and host a playoff game, and the playoffs go through Cleveland. Because, Mitch, I'm going off this year and this year alone. This team on the road is not the same. It is obviously clear and evident. Now, obviously, the West Coast, I was never confident. This team has not won the West Coast in years since the Raiders were last in Oakland.
Right.
But this team at home, they are 7-1. The one loss I still put an asterisk next to because we changed quarterbacks an hour before kickoff.
Yeah.
This team at 1 o'clock is so hard to beat. This team at home is virtually unbeatable. And this team plays with a swagger. And I don't know what it is. You have to make sure you get one more win. But damn it, I want 3 more. And I want to see the Ravens lose to San Francisco on Christmas night and then drop one of their final 2 to either Miami or Pittsburgh. And somehow these Kansas City Chiefs that look nothing like the Chiefs teams of the past 5 years to drop one of their final 3. Because then the Browns will be the number one seed in the AFC. Because we definitely need Miami to lose again. But, Mitch, they're probably playing the hottest team in the NFL week 18 of the season, the Buffalo Bills. And that's so far down the road, I won't worry about it. But, damn it, this team finds a way to win. And we haven't seen this. And the last time we've been able to say we were 9-5 is in 2020 when the Browns were 10-4. They went on to win one of their last 3. The one loss was the Ravens Monday Night Football. The other one was another loss with an asterisk next to it because we had no wide receivers against the New York Jets. And they won against the Pittsburgh Steelers the final week of the season to get in. This team now, what was crazy though, is win or lose yesterday, this team was still going to be the 5 seed in the AFC. That win was so big because now you have a cushion. You have a 1-game lead over 2 teams you have tiebreakers over in the Colts and the Bengals. Ideally, what I want is the Browns to win the next 2. That game against the Bengals means nothing. You can rest your guys. That's what I want. But there is something about this team that I don't have that, oh gosh, it's going to happen again. We're going to blow this lead. We're going to blow this lead. And yesterday, even when the Browns came back, it was like, yeah, it kind of assumed it was going to happen at some point. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Well, it was that one touchdown throw from Flacco to Cooper, which is one of the 5 tightest windows I've seen thrown on a football field this season that really got the Browns back in the game. And when you make that defensive stop, you're thinking, okay, just get Dustin Hopkins to around the 35-yard line. He does his thing. And he did. Problem was, Chicago had 3 timeouts to work with at the end, so they didn't allow the Browns to run down the clock all the way to 0. So when you get the football back, you get it to Fields. And there's the thing with Justin Fields, man. The guy's not playing great. I get it. He's not on a good team. This team's not going to have the same head coaches next season. They might not have the same front offices next season. They're probably not going to have a lot of their same receivers back. One of the receivers they're not going to have back is probably Mooney, who, unfortunately for him, and I felt for him at the end, not enough because it would have resulted in our team losing, but to have that deflection on a ball thrown by Fields, which, I was kind of worried towards the end because it was around midfield. You get it deflected, then you're laying on the ground. The ball is falling into your grasp. It's like almost in a basket you could catch this thing in. And then it just rolls out of your hands. The momentum of your leg kicking up in the air pops the ball up out of there. And DeAnthony Bell is in the worst possible spot at the worst possible time for Bears fans. And it is just, that to me is the reason, and I don't know if you agree with this, Mitch, why Chicago is not going to move on from Fields this offseason, why they're going to take Marvin Harrison with the number 1 pick in the draft, and why they're going to focus on building both of the lines to get Fields more comfortable to try and keep making him this franchise guy. Because we know what he can do. He's just been I don't know. I mean, do you think there's less stock in Fields than I'm giving, or do you think it's more so like Chicago's just not putting a team around him? I think this is proof for Chicago that they shouldn't be trying to just rebuild without Fields. Just try to rebuild around him.
Outside of the numbers yesterday, Mitch, Justin Fields has been playing better as of late. Okay, the 2 interceptions. Look, the one was on. They were both on Hail Marys. The one really wasn't an interception.
Those interceptions. Joe Flacco had the worst game when it came to interceptions, even though two.
Yeah,
yeah.
So his quarterback rating sucks, and his QBR. Well, yeah, he had 2 picks that affects it, but the one wasn't an interception and a half because it hit the ground. I'm kind of shocked it hasn't been changed yet by the statisticians in the NFL because it clearly hit the ground. The second one, you have to throw that ball to the end zone. I think the Bears are going to do one of 2 things. They're either going to change quarterback or they're going to change head coach. I don't think they're going to get rid of Ryan Poles, the general manager, because he has made moves.
It's fair.
A la Montez Sweat, who, by the way, destroyed us yesterday.
3 sacks.
To make the defense good. The defense isn't bad. It really isn't.
No,
this defense, the Chicago Bears.
The offensive line sucks. That's what it is.
And that's where I think people lose it, Mitch. The offensive line sucks. Well, but we have an athletic quarterback who can get out and run.
He's not a scrambler.
He can do that.
Yeah.
Because he's so athletic.
But it's not his
That's
first
not the goal.
instinct.
Exactly. And that's not what your goal should be is, we surround him everywhere else. The offensive line's last. No, that's not it. Because you know what? If they get rid of him and they take Caleb Williams or Drake May, it's going to be the same exact thing next year. And if not, it's going to be more sacks because those two, Caleb Williams is athletic, but Drake May not nearly as athletic as those two, is just going to get sacked more and more. If I'm Justin Fields, I don't know what I want. I kind of think I might want out because what have the Bears done to show you that they can do anything with a quarterback? Nothing. They've done nothing but disservice to every single quarterback they've had in the past 15, 20 years.
Go back to post Jim McMahon even.
It's mind-boggling. The one thing I will say, and I want to give Eberflus and the coaching staff credit, why Mooney had a shot at that, Mitch. When these Hail Marys are thrown, what do these defensive coordinators you hear talked about a lot? What do they tell their guys to do?
Keep it in front.
Well, and knock the ball down.
Right.
So what did the Bears do? They said, hey, let's get everybody down there, but one guy kind of back off and see if we can have a chance. Yeah. And Mooney had a chance. I'm not going to rip Mooney.
No, it's so unfortunate.
Have you ever played dodgeball?
Of course, many times.
You know how if you catch the ball, you're out. The thrower in dodgeball's out. But you know how it's hard to catch, but it's still easier to catch because it's just a normal circle or sphere, and you can kind of body it against you.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if people realize this, but NFL footballs are not normal shapes.
No.
Like a baseball or a basketball or a soccer ball.
No.
Having somebody knock that ball down, in which the Browns did at that velocity, is not an easy catch. I would venture to say that even professional athletes in that spot probably only catch that 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 times. So I'm not going to get on Mooney. Thankfully, he didn't catch it because it broke our way. But I'm curious to see if more teams are going to start doing this with players in terms of if they have to go for a Hail Mary, have everybody down there, have one guy kind of sink outside or sink back towards the goal line to see if you can get that deflection, because every time there is a pass deflected towards the ground, how many times have we seen it in any game recently? Bobbled around, juggled around, guys fighting for it before it hits the ground. I don't mind that strategy from the Bears to have guys ready to catch the deflection. It just so happens to be the footballs are very hard to catch because they're not a normal shape. And the velocity of which it's coming down at you at, think about this. You go in the jugs machine to catch footballs. It's coming at you at a perfect spiral at a velocity you're pretty much known it's coming at. It was a tough play for Mooney. Thankfully, he didn't catch it. But this Bears team, the defense, I think, is very solid. If I'm Fields, I think I want out. I would be intrigued to see what teams go after him. We've heard rumblings the Steelers are interested. The Falcons, which I think is very interesting because you look at the running game they have with Bijan Robinson. Now, in my opinion, we'll talk about the NFL here in totality in a second. Arthur Smith probably deserves to be fired for his lack of use of Bijan Robinson, 7 carries yesterday. Justin Fields and Bijan Robinson in the backfield. with Kyle Pitts, who's been underutilized, and Drake London, and then Algier and Patterson are the other one. Like that Falcons team is just one bigger piece and probably a smart offensive minded coach away from actually having something to where if they had it this year, they would probably be running away with this division. I'm just ecstatic that we can sit here at 9-5 and say, hey, you go to Houston, which I would assume CJ Stroud will play, but we don't know yet because he still hasn't cleared concussion protocol.
Right.
Then you come home where you haven't well, I'm going to say you haven't lost yet with the team that you mean to put out.
I understand, yeah.
Okay. Against the Jets in primetime, where you are virtually unbeatable.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to Cincinnati, which we're going to find out. Do the Browns have the Bengals number, or do the Browns have Joe Burrow's number? Because it's going to be one of the two. Okay. And for Bengals fans, I don't know which one you're going to want to hope the Browns have. Because if it's the Bengals number, you're in trouble. And then if it's just the fact the Browns have Joe Burrow's number, you're probably going to be a little concerned once Joe Burrow's back too, because this is a guy that's only beaten the Browns one time. But that's 3 weeks down the road. I'm taking this 1 week at a time. The next goal is to beat Houston. Another AFC win would be monumental. It would probably take a whole lot of cluster and disaster for the Browns to miss the playoffs if they were to lose the last two then. And certain teams have to win out. But it feels good to know that our two best players right now are two guys in their mid to late 30s, because it's Joe Flacco and Dustin Hopkins. Dustin Hopkins has saved our tail end so many times this year. First off, we didn't even talk about this last week. This man broke Phil Dawson's single season record.
Yes, he did.
This man has the most field goals this year. This is a guy that was probably going to get cut by the Chargers for losing out to Cameron Dicker in the kicking game. And here he is having a Pro Bowl caliber season. He will probably be a Pro Bowler. I'll be shocked if he's not. Offensively, those are the two saving our behind right now.
Sure.
And because defensively, Myles Garrett he's defensive player of the year. He is.
Gordon Stefanski.
He has to be. Yesterday, he was held, I believe, 13 or 14 plays.
Sure.
Let me check. Never got called. Face mask multiple times. He got horse collared on a play, too, if you saw him drugged down from behind. Nothing called.
Got hit with a card, didn't get called.
I'm going to ignore that one. That's the risk you play, though. We know Myles was fined. We know he went out and criticized the officiating. Sometimes the officiating comes back and they help you, and sometimes they are never going to help you. And it certainly looked like they had an agenda not to benefit Myles Garrett yesterday, my humble opinion.
Agenda?
Because it's crazy.
With the commissioner there?
Yeah. Wow. The commissioner that also probably doesn't like us because of the deal we gave to Deshaun Watson.
Well,
whatever that may be. Either way, victory Monday. The Browns are 9-5. Get one more. But like I said, 1 week at a time, get three more. Get three more. Because 2020, it still wasn't settled that last week of the season. It was when you're in. This one is you win next week. You
win next week. Yeah, they had a couple other things where it's like, even if they don't win, they would need to win and other teams would need to lose. I need to know which specific teams would need to lose in order for them to clinch a playoff spot.
But that's the thing, is you control your own destiny here. And that's the biggest thing. That's what you want as a team. Okay. There's no playoff spots are clinched in the AFC yet, which is crazy, because you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think the AFC from top to bottom is way more.
There's more parity.
And the NFC probably has at the top the better teams right now.
Yeah.
Between the Niners and the Eagles. And I'm not putting the Cowboys in there anymore because Dak Prescott threw his name out of that.
One game. Okay. It shows that the Bills are back for sure, but one game we want to throw Dak Prescott out of the race. One game we want to throw Dallas out of the race.
Well, did we not say the same thing about Jalen Hurts after the loss to San Francisco? It's just where we are.
I don't think we did.
Media kind of did. It's where we're at with this game. In the NFL is what have you done for me lately, and how good have you played lately?
Well, the MVP race is so muted down anyway. This is the most open year ever. Like, we're at a chance now where Brock Purdy is the odds favorite to win now. I don't know. This is like the year the kicker won the MVP back in '82. I don't remember who it was, but it was a kicker because nobody else stood out. Was that the strike? Was that the strike year? I don't know. Might have been. I don't know.
I don't
Let
know.
me check it out.
But either way, I think it's a great segue to start talking about the rest of the NFL because
Yeah.
yesterday was you had teams you never thought should win a football game the rest of the year, win a game, a la the Carolina Panthers. And you had teams that you expected, all right, this is where they're going to make their statement. This is the statement coming right now, a la the Dallas Cowboys. And instead they get boat raced with a garbage touchdown in the end, which still baffles me because McCarthy left everybody in for the Cowboys. They scored and then they kicked off. So what was the point of that? I would have assumed they go for the onside kick, although you probably still weren't going to win that game. But like, you had your guys in a game. Excuse me. The final was 31 to what? The final was 31-10. It was 31-3, and you had your guys in still, and you score, and then you kick off. It's like, why? Why did you even let guys in there to take hits? But yesterday was a wild day. You're starting to get a little bit more of a clear picture in some aspect. And where I'll start with is the Sunday night game, and kind of sit here and tell you I'm right so far. The Jaguars aren't legit.
I mean, not without their quarterback who just suffered a concussion and may not even play this coming week. I mean, that doesn't help.
They're tied, three-way tie in the AFC South for first place in that division, which is nuts.
It's going to be Indianapolis. It has to be the route that they're taking. It's going to be.
So before we keep talking about it, in my opinion, there's three coaches, at least in the AFC side, that have cases for Coach of the Year.
Yep, I know two of them.
Kevin Stefanski, Shane Steichen, and DeMeco Ryans.
Okay, yeah, Ryans is another one.
And I think that if the Colts or Texans win that division, I think that the voting is going to be so close. If it's between the winner of that division, it's one of those two teams and Stefanski, that I don't know which way it goes, because those two teams were not supposed to be anywhere near the playoffs this year, especially once Anthony Richardson went down, though.
Yeah,
for the Colts.
Yeah, Colt. Yeah, sure. I mean, some people thought the Colts could get in preseason. Everyone thought the Texans would probably still be a 3-4 win team, but they're, doing what they got to do. But yeah, Stefanski's already won one, so I can see them maybe going that route.
But you look at what Stefanski's done. I mean, Mitch, I'm not, in terms of offensive play caller, I'm not the biggest fan, but what he's done, has any coach done this recently? I don't think, I can't remember. But my, oh my, this is going to be a wild 3 weeks. And I misspoke. The Ravens clinched a playoff spot last night with the win. So one team in the AFC has clinched a playoff spot, but there's still a chance that they don't win the division. So what's your take on what happened yesterday in the NFL?
Cowboys also clinched a playoff spot.
I said AFC. I don't care about the AFC.
I don't know. I mean, in the AFC, I mean, look, you speak about those Colts. I mean, they beat up on a Steelers team so bad that Mason Rudolph's the starting quarterback this week.
I've said it for a few weeks now, Mitch. Steelers fans, welcome to hell. Because not only that, Mitch, but these fans have lost their mind. They want Tomlin out of Pittsburgh. They want to start over. It's so awesome. It's so awesome to see.
I just sent my friend, you can't see the message today, but I sent him the news of the thing here, and I just texted him, your poverty. Oh, it's amazing. I'm not sold on Tomlin being ousted yet. But I don't know. Like the Steeler fan, they're not used to this. They're just not used to being in dead last in the AFC North this late in the season. How could this possibly be? Who would ever suffer through this? I mean, who knows?
And that's the thing, is Tomlin's never had a losing record. Now it looks like the Steelers are on pace to possibly have that, but
two more losses.
2 more losses. A lot of them are, well, it's fine if he's had a winning record, but we don't want to be mediocre. And that's true. But as you've now seen with Kenny Pickett, who was anointed, this great quarterback preseason, a quarterback that was going to lead the Steelers to playoffs, which, by the way, Joe Flacco has as many passing touchdowns as Kenny Pickett in 10 quarters as Pickett does all season long before he got hurt. So let's just make sure I mention that. There's no surefire guarantee that if you go back to the draft, you're getting the guy that you think you're going to get. It's crazy. And I think the Steelers are still, they're caught in this thing of everything we do is always right, but we want to start over, but we do everything
Mhm.
right, so it's just going to work every time. No, it's not.
That was from like them having low 20s draft picks and like figuring that would work. Again, that's why if they trade for Fields, I'm going to be scared. That's what I'm like. Damn it.
You know what? I won't be scared if they keep Tomlin, because I did have a good conversation with a Steelers fan. Mike Tomlin's biggest mistake recently is he keeps hiring offensive coordinators who are unqualified and don't challenge him. We see a lot of coaches that don't want to be challenged, but at the same time, I think a lot of the time you see these teams that are successful have guys on the staff that will challenge the head coach. And I think you need to have that. So if they get Fields to keep Tomlin, I don't know if I'm going to necessarily be worried until I see it after a full season. But in terms of the playmaker, we know Justin Fields can be and should be if he's put in a good spot. I would be worried in that aspect. But they also have a lot of other issues with their wide receivers. You know, George Pickens doesn't like to run block, gives up on plays in the middle of the game. The Steelers are right now just in a horrible spot if you're a Steelers fan, and everybody else right now absolutely loves it.
Four offensive coordinators in the Mike Tomlin era: Bruce Arians, Todd Haley, Randy Finkner,
fired,
and Matt Canada,
fired. Don't forget Arians left Don't forget Arians, I believe, left for the head coaching job in Arizona, or he resigned to take a year off for his health.
I thought he went. I went to Indianapolis.
He may have went to. He was in Arizona too.
Yeah, but he was in Arizona, and then what was it? Did he come to Indianapolis first, or was that after?
Either way, he left. He left for other opportunities. So this is the third coordinator that Tomlin's fired. First time in a long time.
Colts 1 year. Colts 1 year, took over Pagano, went to Arizona. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah. By the way, speaking of coaches, one got fired over this weekend. Buddy,
long overdue.
My 2022 preseason coach of the year candidate. God, could you go out any worse than not like a loss that was so bad people were calling him to not even get on the plane, and who knows if he even did. You feel for him, you feel for the Perry native and Brandon Staley, but good God, to get tripled up by a team that already fired a Northeast Ohio based coach this year. What's going on with the Northeast Ohio based coaches? But God, that I don't even know what this was, and the Chargers are at a standstill now. Where I don't know, is Herbert going to get traded, or are they just going to build around him again? That's 3 head coaches now.
I don't know, but I'm going to also sit here again and pump my fist because I wasn't buying into the Herbert hype. These people wanted to
stop. It's not him.
But at the same time, you don't just get to crown a quarterback who's done nothing in the NFL as a top 5 quarterback. He's done nothing. Oh, I'm sorry. He just blew a 27-point lead in the playoffs because they couldn't move the ball in the second half. He also has a reputation of doing that at Oregon in college as well. Okay, this is a quarterback that would start out fast and didn't close games well. I think Herbert's a good quarterback, but I'm not going to sit here anymore and say he's a top 5 or even top 10 quarterback.
No one's saying that yet because of the things
a lot of people were.
Yeah, maybe he's got the tangibles to do that, but the guy's got to be part of a team that can close out games and get some more playoff experience. Because right now you're in year 4 under him, and he's still got a lot of game left. But if this had kept going under Staley, it honestly might have gotten worse.
I mean, I don't know if there was any way for it to get better, except for them being one of the worst teams and having an easier schedule next year.
To be a defensive coordinator in Los Angeles with some great players on that team, and to have a bottom 7 defense in each of your 3 seasons in LA is nothing short of remarkable.
It doesn't even make sense when you look at the roster they have defensively and the players they go out and they draft and they sign in free agency and they extend that they draft, how that defense could be as bad as they are. And it just goes to show you potentially that there are amazing coordinators that just don't work out as NFL head coaches. And Staley might be one of them. There are coordinators who make great NFL head coaches. But I mean, I wasn't shocked. I figured he would have been fired a few weeks ago when this team could not get anything going their way. If I'm Staley, the only thing I'm mad about is I didn't get fired right after the game. I got fired when I got back to LA, because if you got fired after the game, you could stay in Vegas. So probably have a good time, waste away all the sorrows and everything. Realize you're still getting millions of dollars. Do not do your job now. But I wasn't shocked. I was actually more shocked that it was fired so much later after that game ended. 63 points to a team that started Aiden O'Connell and was missing the reigning rushing title leader in Josh Jacobs.
It's crazy.
It's mind-boggling.
It was 42-0 at halftime. Even the Browns, the year that they beat the Steelers in the wild card game, weren't up that much. Like, we thought that game was over. This one was over.
And I'm kind of mad I went to bed because I was like, these two teams suck. I'm not even going to watch this game. I didn't watch a single snap. And I was like, damn. Woke up the next day.
I mean, if you're a Raiders fan, you would stay up and watch the whole thing, but that's not for anybody to witness. It couldn't even get Al Michaels back awake for any exciting calls for the rest of the night.
Vive Auto Sales, located on West High Avenue in New Philadelphia and Cleveland Avenue in Canton, is a used car dealership committed to getting financing for everyone. We give every customer that walks in our showrooms a prime buying experience, no matter their credit score or financial situation. Current inventory can be viewed at www.wefinancenow.com. Check out our Facebook pages for the most up-to-date information about upcoming events and promotions happening at Vive Auto Sales.
Are you trying to increase your speed, quickness, vertical leap, and agility? If so, NST Sports Performance is for you. NST trains athletes ages 5 through pro. NST designs each program specific to the athlete's needs, goals, and sports. For more, visit nstsports.com. Locations in North Canton and New Philadelphia. It's nstsports.com.
If you're looking for a new or pre-owned car or truck, why not see the Parkway Auto Group? Parkway is a special group of automotive experts with 8 brands to satisfy your needs. Come see the difference at the Parkway Auto Group on Commercial Parkway in Dover. 8 brands and 1 family. It's Parkway Auto Group.
The Furby Electric Supply Company has bright ideas for your home. Save money by converting to energy-efficient electrical products or add ambiance with beautiful lighting features. It begins with a professional consultation and a visit to the Furby Lighting Showroom. Then certified Furby contractors complete your project right and on time. Since 1934, 4 generations have built a reputation of quality and trust, and they offer emergency services too. Just visit Furby.com. That's F-U-R-B-A-Y. The Furby Electric Supply Company.
It takes a lot of practice to have a winning team. Albin Title has over 100 years of combined experience handling real estate, title, and escrow transactions. They serve Tuscarawas, Stark, Carroll, Harrison counties, and more. So choose Albin Title for your next home refinance, sale, or purchase. They'll get it done quickly and professionally. Contact Albin Title at 330-334-5800 or visit their website albintitle.com. Let them put their experience to work for you.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
Fall is in the air and part-time career enhancement courses at Buckeye Career Center are on the horizon. Registration is now open for Introduction to Beekeeping, Basic Small Engine Repair, and Sign Language. These part-time offerings run on Tuesday evenings and begin in November. Let Buckeye Career Center help you learn a new skill or advance your current skill set. Call 330-339-2288 for more information or to reserve your seat in one of these or our other part-time classes.
Have you checked in on someone yet today? This is your reminder. A simple text, call, or message. You don't have to be a professional to check in. You just have to ask and listen. Are you someone who could use a check-in? Dial 988 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A message from Stark County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery.
Okay, so we're gonna move on from that. Speaking of injuries, Cavs have a lot of them. They have 2 more on the docket right now. Evan Mobley and Darius Garland didn't stop them from winning against Atlanta this past Sunday night, or was it Saturday night? Saturday night, doesn't matter. To be fair, Atlanta was on the back end of a 2-2. What do you call those things? Home and home, back to back. Sure. And then you play the Rockets tonight, which they're terrible away from their arena, so you'll probably win that one. With that, I mean, I think we saw it last year. Was Garland injured for a good portion of the start of last season? I believe he was.
Yeah, I believe last year was the opening night where he got poked in the eye.
So that was the part of the stretch where the Cavs got off to a really good start when Donovan Mitchell was taking most of the positions at point guard. I wonder if we're going to get the same stretch here now, because I think Cleveland's out of the funk for the most part. They're probably going to pick it up here a little bit, maybe go on a bit of a stretch. Not saying they're going to go guns blazing, but they're going to be better than I think the slow start they had this year. I wonder if it's going to be Donovan Mitchell starting to make that run a bit again to make you wonder, like, hey, dude, the Cavs need to make a decision on who should be the main guard. And number two, how do you work around these injuries? Because, yeah, you still got Jared Allen as a big man, but Mobley is still – he's a guy that is a playmaker for you as a big man. He's gone. And then Garland had been seemingly getting better on the assist front, and now he's not going to be available for some time.
Yeah, to start with Garland, yes, he's had injuries, but this isn't a guy that's having these little nicks and bumps and bruises that linger. He fractured his jaw. I don't know if in my life I've seen an NBA player have a fractured jaw from a game to miss time. Okay, so I'm not going to dub him as injury prone. They have 4 very winnable games in their next 4. And they're all the next 3 are at home. They play the Rockets, they play the Jazz, they play the Pelicans, and then they go to Chicago. They have to go 3-1. Because after that is where the stretch kind of starts to get tough. Because then they go to Dallas, then they're home against Milwaukee, then they're in Toronto, a team that we just seemingly cannot get their number down. The Wizards come here in January for 2. Spurs, I'm not going to just say it's an easy win just because when you had those 2 bigs, I would have said it. But with just Jared Allen now guarding Wembanyama, I don't know. But then in January, you have the Bucks again in Atlanta, in Orlando, which right now is apparently the second hardest place to play in the NBA. Third, behind Boston and Houston. The Bucks again, the Clippers, and then the Pistons, which at that point, I don't even know if they're going to have 3 wins. So who knows?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
What's interesting, though, is what happens if this team doesn't get these wins over bad teams. Brian Windhorst, in my opinion, is one of the most reputable NBA reporters there is. And he had said when the Cavs were struggling recently, January 15th is the date. That if things don't get figured out, the Cavs are probably going to make a change, whether that is a head coach firing, a trade of getting rid of somebody on this team. If this team tanks, what happens to Donovan Mitchell is what I want to know. Because if this team tanks and they're flirting with that 7, 8, 9, 10 seed in the East, do they keep Mitchell? I'm not saying this that I want to get rid of him. I don't.
No, I know.
Mitchell's tremendous, but you have to almost wonder: are you doing anything to warrant him signing an extension? And if not, do you go get what you can get for him? Because somebody out there will trade for him. I would have to venture to say 24 of the other 29 teams with the Cavs excluded would trade for Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, I hope we don't get to that point. Obviously, I hope that he goes in that tear he was on last year to a point where you're almost wondering, oh, shoot, could he be an MVP candidate? I just don't know. I don't know what this team looks like. I mean, Jared Allen having 25 and 14 against Atlanta with no Evan Mobley is like, oh,
it's good.
Could he step up now with no Mobley?
I hope so.
You know, Garland and Mobley are out for at least a month. It's possible they're out for 2. You're going to have to tread water. And when I say tread water, you're going to have to beat all these bad teams and beat them. And maybe hopefully spring a win or 2 here, catching a team like Milwaukee on a back-to-back or somebody like that. But I don't know what happens. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you. Last episode or last week, I was telling you, no, it's not fire JB Bickerstaff, because I don't think it is. And you're not. I can't warrant firing a coach who just lost 2 of his starting 5 in the NBA after he just had 51 wins last year. It all started back with New York, though. After we got bounced in the playoffs, they changed the offense in the offseason.
Yeah.
And you heard about it. And this offense hasn't looked good. And the defense certainly is not where it was last year, the number 1 defense in the NBA.
No.
I don't know. I don't know. we aren't paying as much attention to them, and we're not talking about them as much because our football team is very, very good. And outside of 2020 and 07, we only ever talked about the Cavs because the Browns were a factory of sadness. Now that's they're kind of distracting us now.
Yeah, but I've tried to keep pace with both teams. It's been a little harder for Cavs though.
At this point last year, though, I feel like we were definitely talking Cavs a little bit more.
Maybe,
and that's probably
because
Donovan Mitchell was here. Yeah, they were so good. Donovan Mitchell was here. It was the first year with him, but I don't know what happens if this team can't tread water. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying trade Donovan Mitchell, but I think it's a very real possibility that if this team falls under and goes under here, and they're stuck between 7 and 10 in the Eastern Conference, that they trade Donovan Mitchell potentially.
That's the thing right now, though. You're eighth in the standings right now in the East. You're in the play-in tournament, just behind Indiana and considerably behind Milwaukee. Just stay at 500 until mid-January. Just stay at 500 until late January. If you're at that point right then when you get to the All-Star break, you're like, okay, let's wait for Darius. Let's wait for Evan. Try to make a run there at the end. If you're bottoming out by that point, then it's like, yeah, we got to do something about it at this point, because then you're falling back with the Chicagos, the Atlantas. I'm not going to say the Charlottes, Washingtons, and Detroits, because that's a whole other level.
No.
Holy cow. But yeah, that's when you're kind of like, wow, the 70-point game might have been the peak of this core of Cavs players. And then you're probably going to have to get rid of Mitchell, because if you're going to choose between 2 point guards, you're going to choose the younger, less experienced, more to grow Darius than
And
Donovan, who's
cheaper.
Go ahead. Yeah, cheaper too. Even though Donovan is one of my top 2 favorite Cavs post LeBron, and he's not number 2. So yeah, I'm at that point. Yeah, if you're losing at much at that point, yeah, it might be time to be a realist and say this is not it. But keep pace. Win a play-in game or 2. I mean, look at last year. 2 play-in teams got all the way to the conference finals. One was 2 wins away from the finals. So anything can happen. Anything can happen is what I'm going to say.
Have you checked in on someone yet today? This is your reminder. A simple text, call, or message. You don't have to be a professional to check in. You just have to ask and listen. Are you someone who could use a check-in? Dial 988 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A message from Stark County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery.
Wendy's without the Wendy's app is like Nugs without the sauce. Or a Frosty without the fries. Or a hamburger without the fresh beef. No! Level up. Get the app to order ahead, order delivery, earn free food, and get app-exclusive offers. One app, all the Wendy's.
Offer for a limited time at participating Wendy's. Terms apply. App registration required. Fresh beef available in contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
Think Ferris. Where you matter.
You matter. Everyone plays a part. We all have a role. Each of us can make a difference. You do matter, and the best way to have a positive impact is to pay it forward. With each of us helping one another to cope, feel better, and know that we belong. Pass on the positivity today. Tell someone else they matter too. Alt Care.
Alt Care, Alt Care. Where you matter.
You invest a lot in your home and vehicle purchases. Van Nostrand Young and Associates want you to feel secure should anything happen to those investments. We partnered with providers like Grange Insurance and other industry leaders to be sure you're presented with the most complete coverage to fit your needs. Because we're not only here to protect the items you invest in, we're here to protect your future as well.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
Ride into the future to win great prizes. Can you see into the SARTA crystal ball? Guess how we'll be innovating and adding new services to make your SARTA experience better than ever. Try your luck with the What's Next at SARTA contest at sartanext.com. One grand prize winner will win free bus rides for 6 months. Runners-up will win great SARTA merchandise like a Bluetooth speaker water bottle, backpack, and tumbler. And don't worry, they're all multiple choice questions. All part of SARTA 2.5. Happy SARTAversary!
Finally, when we wrap this up really quick, is college bowl season dead to you? Because I heard this talk on, what was it, Mostly Sports today, that with the transfer portal and the way that guys sit out for the draft now, and the sitting out for the draft now has been more of a problem in the last few years than the transfer portal did. But we saw like Kyle McCord's not going to be available for Ohio State. He's now going to Syracuse, which congratulations to him. There's not going to be as much pressure on him next year. And I don't mean that in any disrespect, is that I even for me, I was part of it. Some Ohio State fans were like kind of hard on him this year, even though there were certain things that weren't done. But you see the news of like Jaden Daniels, the Heisman winner, not going to play for LSU in this bowl game. So even my complaints of a Heisman winner playing in the Capital One Bowl, which doesn't exist anymore apparently, isn't even going to come true. But that's even worse somehow. And you look at these games now, which the people who are saying on Twitter, like for all the people who say the bowl games don't matter, shut up. They're kind of right. When you look at those videos of the kids winning the famous Toastery Bowl that I'm watching right now between Old Dominion and Western Kentucky, whoever wins that's going to love it, and they're going to be ecstatic and so amazed, and they're going to take their goodie bag and go right back to school. They're going to love it. It just doesn't grab you the way I think that it used to, and I don't know. I'm kind of wondering if it's the playoff that is the biggest catalyst of this, if it's the transfer portal, if it's just this wave of guys realizing, hey, I'm going to make millions here in a couple of months. Why risk it for 60 minutes of nothing? Essentially, like, I guess now that I say it, that's probably the biggest answer.
Yeah. At the same time, that used to be the most logical answer. But now you're still seeing it. And look, I still think he's going, but Marvin Harrison still hasn't made a decision because the NIL can give players more money than they're going to make as a first round pick and a top 5 pick.
Right.
There's a reason that some of these guys aren't sitting out. But at the same time, I think in these lower end bowls, guys are sitting out because it's not as important. I think college bowl season has died to a degree because if you weren't in the college football playoff, it was always a big deal to be in a New Year's Six bowl. Ohio State is playing on the 29th
in the Cotton
Bowl, which used to be
it's still kind of big. I mean, you know,
it is, but why is that not on New Year's Day? Like, I get you don't want to take viewership away from the college football playoff, and I'm sure that has a major factor because these networks want to be able to air every game and get as many views and ratings as possible for revenue in terms of sponsors and advertisers. But you look at some of these other games, then you're like, Monday, January 1st, I have to watch Wisconsin play LSU now with no Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
I have to watch Iowa and Tennessee.
Dude, I mean, you look at some of these matches with Oregon versus undefeated Liberty. Wow.
Hey, go Liberty, though. Good friend, Jason.
Good for them.
Your colleague goes to Liberty. Big Liberty fan, in my pocket over here. But I will say this as of now, Mitch, college bowl season's dead. It is. Next year, though, I'm not going to come in saying it's dead because I think it's going to be completely different with 12 teams making the playoff. It's going to be a lot more chaotic. But when you say, is bowl season dead, then you also, I feel like, almost discredit some of these teams that their goal is just to get 6 wins to be bowl eligible. But at the same time, a lot of the games put on between these 2 6-win teams aren't enjoyable most of the time. And it's intriguing, but as of right now, for the 2023 season, rolling into the 24 playoffs in terms of coming off the 23 season, I will say college bowl season to me is dead.
So going back to that bowl eligibility thing, the threshold is 6, and even then, sometimes there have been like 5 and 7 teams that have snuck in and been like, "Hey, we can fill in because this other team's not going to do it." Do you think they should maybe up it to like 7 and 5? Maybe to like limit the amount of teams that are kind of getting in, and like, I don't know, because you don't want to risk excluding these teams that are like, hey, we've been winning 6 games this whole time. You're now not going to let us get in. And But I'm saying like
Well-
maybe the trickle down effect is if these 7 and 5 teams don't want to play, these 6 and 6 teams can get in and maybe make a difference. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. It's such
I agree with you, but you know why it's never going to happen? Because then you'd lose bowl games, and the NCAA would lose money, and TV networks would lose money and revenue and advertisements, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, for some reason, I feel like more so this year than years past, more coaches from other programs, not necessarily big name programs, have said, "Hey, our guys deserve with now NIL a revenue split with these bowl games." Whether that's right or wrong, you're starting to hear it talked about more and more. But that's why, unless they make the season longer, which I don't know if you can do now with a 12-team playoff because you're already asking players to play more games than they're used to, it's going to stay at 6 and 6. I mean, Mitch, this is why James Madison is in a bowl game this year when all year they were not going to be eligible because they moved divisions.
Right.
But because there weren't enough 6 and 6 teams, it was, hey, James Madison, you guys have one loss.
Which
Yeah,
I kind of figured that would happen either way.
That's also, I just think that rule is stupid. If you're moving up divisions and you're good enough to win your first year in Division I, you, in my opinion, you should be able to make bowl games.
Yeah. Also, can we just, I know we can't do it because they're going to need sponsors forever, but like, can we put a bylaw in to like limit the amount of sponsors on the bowl game names? Sponsor whatever you want. Sponsor the sideline, sponsor the midfield logo, sponsor the helmets on the kids' head, sponsor the coach's jacket for all I care. There's like 2 bowl games with no additional sponsor on it. There's the Myrtle Beach Bowl, there's the LA Bowl, there's the Birmingham Bowl. That's 1. That's 3 rather. That's kind of it.
Well,
as far as I can tell.
Famous Idaho Potato Bowl. That's all one sponsor.
I guess, yeah, that's like a sponsor thing. But wouldn't that be like the Idaho Bowl or the Potato Bowl already? Or the Boise Bowl would be if it wasn't a sponsor. The AutoZone Liberty Bowl, Trans Perfect Music City Bowl, Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl, Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Tell me what Cheez-Its have to do with citrus, my friend.
That one throws me off.
At least Tostitos Fiesta Bowl had something to do with Tostitos. Now it's the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl, or what is it now?
The SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, what is it now? I gotta find it. I'm gonna get myself so riled up if I find it. What is Verbo Fiesta Bowl? Oh my God! Thank you so much for listening or watching to the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch, what's the fact of the day?
Honestly, it goes along with bowl season, so this is a perfect segue. Perfect. More of a fun fact for personal use here. I do have a new favorite bowl. I believe they are a first-time bowl sponsor, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Okay. I'm very excited for the Pop-Tarts Bowl on December 28th between North Carolina State and Kansas State because Pop-Tarts are so good.
What's the best Pop-Tart flavor to you?
Depends when I'm having them, to be honest with you. If I'm having them in the morning, cherry or blueberry. If I'm just looking for a good snack, like late afternoon, late night, s'mores.
Yes. Okay. So we finally agree on something there. I was about to say you're a fruit Pop-Tarts boy. But
no, I like them all. They're all
ooh, really good. Oh, nothing beats a s'more. Thank you so much for listening or watching the Big Time Sports Podcast Show.